Hey artists, welcome to another video. Have you ever wondered if artists are really as broke as people say they are? Or if they're always just brimming with inspiration and creativity? Or what about the idea that in order to create good art, artists need to suffer? Well, in this video, we're going to be debunking some myths about artists and give you a fresh perspective on the world of art and creativity. Whether you are an aspiring artist yourself or just curious about the creative process, you're not going to want to miss this video. So let's jump in. So the first myth about artists is that artists are always broke and starving. I feel like this one is so firmly baked into the modern day stereotype of being an artist. It's very tragic because it is absolutely not true. But these days, I personally believe that it is easier than ever to make an actual living wage as an artist in some unique way that is perfect for you. In some cases, the idea that artists are unable to make a living from their artwork has been reinforced by a romanticized image of the starving artist who creates for the love of the craft rather than for financial gain. But as any person will tell you that's actually trying to live in this world, we've all got bills to pay. Not every artist has to make money from their artwork. This is not me saying that this is a requirement. If you adore creating art and want nothing more from it other than the joy, then that's amazing. But if you want to be able to use your skills and turn it into something that can help you live in this day and age, I personally think that is more achievable than ever. Artists can make money from their artwork, good money. The thing that typically sets these artists apart from the starving ones, though, is that they also had to develop some other skills. They often have to be savvy business people, in addition to being talented creators. And they're going to have to navigate the art market and find opportunities to monetize their artwork. Many successful artists are able to do this through selling their work to collectors, commissions, licensing their artwork. There are so many ways that you can make money from your artwork. Successful artists are able to find ways to monetize their work and support themselves. And the perception of being broke is also something that can be relative depending on an artist's different situation. So this is definitely something that is a myth. Artists are not always broke and starving. And I find that limiting yourself, if you are an artist, and limiting yourself to that stereotype, you are going to be the thing standing in your way from creating something wonderful for yourself. The second myth is that artists are always inspired. I feel like this one is more harmful to the artists themselves rather than the perceived image of artists by society. The idea that creativity is always driven by inspiration, that can lead to the false belief that artists are somehow more gifted or talented than other people, which can be really discouraging for people that want to create artwork for the first time but might find themselves limited by that. In reality, inspiration is just one aspect of the creative process, and it is not always a constant or reliable force. Many artists experience periods of creative block, or they struggle to find inspiration for their artwork. I know I do. However, this does not mean that they are any less skilled or talented than artists who are more frequently inspired. One of the things that sets successful artists apart from the rest is their ability to find ways to be productive, even when they're not feeling it. This can involve developing habits or routines around their creative work, such as setting aside specific times for working on projects, or creating a structured process for generating ideas and bringing them to fruition. One of the practices that I personally developed that has helped to really increase the flow of inspiration is to try to find inspiration in everyday life, rather than waiting for some big divine spark of inspiration to strike. By paying attention to the world around you and seeking out new experiences, You can find tons of inspiration in unexpected places and use that to fuel your creative work. The next myth is that artists are not professionals. I hate this one. So many of these myths raise my hackles and make me grumble, and this is definitely one of them. This myth implies that artists are not legitimate members of the workforce and that their work is not as valuable or deserving of compensation. As an artist, it is hard to not feel offended by this. In reality, artists are professionals just like any other skilled worker. They've got specialized knowledge and skills and expertise in their fields, and their work requires a high level of training, practice, and dedication. Artists earn a living solely through their creative work in a lot of cases, and in order to do so, they must treat their art as a business in order to succeed. They must go at it as a professional. And this often involves developing market strategies, networking, negotiating contracts, and managing things like their workload and finances. It is really, really important to note that while some artists might not have traditional 9-to-5 style jobs, this does not mean that they are not professionals. Many artists work freelance or operate their own businesses, and it requires them to be highly organized and self-motivated. So this myth that artists are not professionals is definitely one that needs to stop. The next myth is that artists are all born talented. This myth can be really harmful on so many fronts, but I think the area where it hurts the most is for people who have a craving to be creative and want to create art for the first time, but they haven't really taken that step yet. The idea that artistic ability is innate and cannot be developed or improved, that can be super discouraging from people pursuing creative endeavors. And it can also lead to the false belief that artists are somehow more gifted or special. But this is so inaccurate. Sure, some artists might have a natural inclination towards certain types of art, expression, ability, but true artistic ability is primarily developed through practice, dedication, and hard work. Just like any other skill or talent. Art and that art ability can be honed and improved over time with that consistent effort and practice. And the notion that artists are born talented, it ignores the fact that creativity and artistic expression come in so many different forms. Some artists may excel at drawing or painting, and others might be really skilled at music or dance or so many other forms of expression. And by limiting our understanding of what constitutes artistic talent, we may overlook the different types of creativity and expression that can exist in this world. And finally, the last myth that I wanted to talk about is the myth that artists need to suffer to create good art. This one really hurts my heart. The myth that artists need to suffer to create good art is a long-standing stereotype. It's been perpetuated throughout history. The idea that pain and suffering and turmoil are necessary for artistic greatness, it has been romanticized as that image of the tortured artist. But while it is true that some artists have experienced significant hardships in their lives, it is absolutely not a requirement for creating good art. The idea that suffering is necessary for artistic greatness, that is so harmful to artists, and it may lead them to believing that they need to continue suffering in order to creating meaningful work. While personal suffering is not necessary for creating good artwork, it is important to acknowledge that many artists do draw inspiration from their personal experiences, whether they be positive or negative. By channeling their emotions and experiences into their work, artists can create artwork that is authentic and meaningful, regardless of whether or not they are actively suffering or have in the past. And while this can help people to connect with that artist, that can also be a really vibrant source of light and inspiration for the rest of the world. What a beautiful thing. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope that this has given you a bit of a better understanding of the creative process and some of the realities of being an artist. It is so important to remember that creativity and inspiration can come from all sorts of places, and that you don't have to suffer or be born with an innate talent to create something beautiful and meaningful. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to keep seeing more art content like this, hit subscribe. Until next time, keep exploring that world around you and keep striving to discover new ways to express yourself. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.